If you're looking to set up vscode for your data or AI projects using Python, then look no further. This will be your ultimate guide. We'll cover everything that you need to know to get started. Now, for those of you that are new here, my name is Dave Ebbelaar. I'm the founder of Data Lumina, and I've been building custom data and AI solutions for our clients for the past 5 years already. And I've been working professionally with VS Code for the past 3 years or so, almost using it every day. So let's get into things. All right, so throughout this video, I will be walking you through this document, which I will also make available for you in the description. But here's what you're going to learn. I'm going to show you how you can set up your VS Code workspace. That's why you're here. But I'm also going to show you how you can style and customize VS Code, how to optimize it, how to create and work with virtual environments, very important. Then how to 2x your productivity with the interactive mode. This is going to completely change the way you work with Python. Believe me, this has completely changed the game for me and lots of other people already, because I am redoing this tutorial. I released it 2 years ago and is one of my most viewed videos. And to this day, I still get lots of comments on a weekly basis about how this really has changed and improved their workflow for the better. So now it's time for a 2024 updated version. And then finally, we'll get into how to easily integrate Git into your workflow using VS Code without having to remember all those complicated commands. Now, since you're already here on this video, I'm assuming you've already downloaded and installed VS Code. If not, please follow this link over here and do so. Then a few quick notes on why VS Code is so awesome. So VS Code stands for Visual Studio Code. It's a free integrated development environment, or IDE for short. It's from Microsoft and it works on all platforms, so Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. What I really like about VS Code, well, first of all, it's free and you have so much features and the options to extend and customize this editor to really fit it to your needs. And because it is so feature rich, like out of the box, it is pretty bare bones and you really have to tweak it a little bit in order to get the most out of it. And that's exactly what we're going to cover in this guide. And when you do that, when you optimize it really for your Python workflow, for your data and AI projects, your productivity will literally go through the roof. So it will make your work much more fun and much more efficient. Now then, let's get into the next part, and that is the Python installation. So the fact that you want to work on data and AI projects, it probably means that you at some point are going to use either Python or Jupyter Notebooks. So you need Python installed on your machine. If you want to work with R, this is not the video for you. So again, I'm assuming here you already have Python installed. If not, you can do it through the official Python installer or install it through Conda. That doesn't matter. I'll show you both options. If both of those terms are new to you and you don't currently have a Python installation on your machine, I would recommend following the official Python installer. Get that up and running and then come back to this video. So then next, let's actually pull up VS Code over here. Let me make this a little bit smaller for you so you can see everything. And I'll be switching back and forth between this document and VS Code to show you the instructions and then show you what that looks like. But the first thing that I want to show you is the command palette. And this is a very powerful feature that allows us to quickly access commands. And we will be using this a lot to tweak settings, open settings, do a bunch of things. So I want to first show you how to access that. And depending on whether you're on Mac or on Windows, that's either Control-Shift-P on Windows or Command-Shift-P if you're on Mac. So let's see what that looks like. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm on Mac, so I can hit Command-Shift-P and this will open up the command palette. This is it. And here we can get all types of settings, so we can search for things, and that is what we will be using. So now you know what the command palette is. All right, and then next, let's get into the Workspace Setup. So now that you have the app installed and you have Python running, we need to create a new project and save that in a workspace file. This is the next most important thing to understand. Now, the way to think about this, for every new project that you want to start, you want to create first and foremost a folder on your machine where all of your files, project, data, everything lives there. And then we want to open that folder within VS Code and save that as a workspace file. In doing so, which I will show you in a bit, we create this file that we can then easily open, and vscode has all the context to that folder and your project specific settings that we can use and store. So what I always recommend is creating a dedicated repositories folder on your machine. I have multiple repository folders. So this is, for example, my folder for YouTube repositories. And you can see in here, I have repositories, which are GitHub repositories, but which are essentially folders that store and collect all my code. So for the sake of this demonstration, let's create a new project over here. So I create a folder. It's currently empty. You can follow along on your setup and then come over here to vscode, come over to file. Let's see, you can see that over here, and then file, open folder. Now I'm going to browse to my YouTube repositories, and here we can see the new project. Now I can open this up and I can say, yes, I trust the authors. There's currently nothing here, but let's say I create a Python file to, for example, create a dataset. So that is dataset.py. That is now in here. I can also validate that over here right now on my machine. And now the next thing that you have to do is you come over here to file and you do save workspace as. And now by default, it will create a code workspace file. So you can see the .code workspace extension, and it will use the same name as the folder that it is in. And that's also what I recommend. And then you can hit save. So what will happen right now, we now have this new project .code workspace. And now what you can do with this file, if you come over to the Finder again or your Explorer, you can easily open up your project from this file. Even if you quit VS Code, you close it down, this is your starting point to continue with your projects. And now I just showed you how you can create a new folder on your machine and then basically start from there from scratch. But what I recommend is to create a template project library that you can use. And I have one right here that I will share with you. So this is an official template as marked on GitHub. So you can do that for repositories. And then what you can do is you can say, create a new repository. So let's call it a demo project. I believe, yes, that is available. Let's make it public. I'm going to create this demo project. And now what this will do, it will make an exact copy of that template. And I will show you what we can do right now. So we can grab the URL over here, then come back to our project folder. Let's delete this one. Come in here. I have a command over here where I can open the terminal and I can do git clone. And I get the GitHub repository in here. Now, if this is going too fast for you, everything that we're just doing is we're getting the demo project from GitHub. And I'm just showing you this because it's included in my workflow. And then typically what I do is I get into the project. So in here in the demo project, I do code and then a dot. And then I open up this project within VS Code. So that is already a speed hack that you can implement. And again, if this is going too fast, I'll explain here in more detail how you can do this. But this is essentially always the starting point for me. So now I have cloned this new repository. It's already on GitHub as well, and it has the structure that I like to use for my data and AI projects. So again, if you're new to this, you don't have to follow this setup. You can just as easily create a new folder and then start from there. All right, then let's quickly talk about virtual environments. This is a very important step in your data and AI workflow if you're working with Python. I recommend creating a new virtual environment, either through Conda or through a virtual environment for every new project that you work on. So this essentially allows you to keep everything separated. And the way you can set this up in VS Code is I'm going to show you this for this new project is we can do that from the command palette. So we can type and select Python and then select interpreter. So let's do that right now. Hit Command P and then we say Python and then we say select interpreter. And then here we can click on create virtual environment. And here you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. It says here that I have both Venv and Conda installed, so we can pick either one. So let's go with Venv right now, so virtual env. So all I have to do is click on here, then I can select the Python version that I want to use. So let's use the latest one that I have installed. And then we can also select if we want to already install the requirements.txt that are here available in the project. So let's do this and set this up. And what this will currently do, you can see that right now we have a .venv folder in the project over here. And it is also based on the requirements.txt. So by default, I have ipykernel in here, which we will get into in a bit, and also python.env to load environment variables. Now you can expand this to your project needs. I usually start with the bare bones and then as I go along. So for example, as we will see in a bit, we'll need pandas. I'll show you how to then go and install that. But that is how you manage your environments. And then, for example, if we come in here and we come into a Python file, you can check here in the bottom right corner which environment you are using. So make sure that it now says venv, and if you're using conda, that it says .conda, depending on, like I've said, the setup that you use. So that's how to easily manage virtual environments without having to remember all the complicated, or they're not so complicated, but still you don't have to remember all of the commands. All right, and then next we're getting into the fun part, and that is installing the extensions. This is really what makes VS Code so powerful. It's the customization. So you can access the extensions either by Control or Command Shift X, or just clicking this button over here. So you can see over here, you access the extensions, and it's very easy to search for extensions. You can just type it in, you will search in the marketplace, and then you have the option to install. So let me just search for something, search for something new that I don't have installed. For example, I have no idea what this is, probably to play Tetris. You just search an extension and click install. So that's how it works. And now let's get into the actual extension list that I recommend, which are available here in this ClickUp document for you to download. And now the cool thing, if you have ClickUp installed, it's free to download and get started. You can even duplicate this and get it into your own workspace so you can save this document. And now ClickUp was also kind enough to sponsor this video, which I really love because, like I've said, we use ClickUp to run everything inside our business, including these documents for YouTube. It's very awesome, so let me tell you more about them. Now, if you're anything like me, then juggling all your tasks, projects, and documents can be a real headache. Now, that is where ClickUp comes in, a single app that can bring all of this together. Now, I love ClickUp because it lets me manage everything in one place, so no more jumping back and forth between different apps. As a developer, the GitHub integrations and automations are also a great way to manage my projects. And creating and sharing documents with my team or clients, or here for this YouTube video, for example, has never been easier. I've tried all the other apps like Trello, Notion, Jira, or Linear, but to me, there was always something missing with those apps. And really with ClickUp, that is where just everything made sense. It was the only app really where I could check all the boxes. So if you're looking to boost your productivity even more beyond this VS Code setup, then make sure to give ClickUp a try. It's made a huge difference for me. You can check out the link in the description to get started. So I've listed all of them here. You can follow these links. You can either search them in here in the marketplace, or you can follow these links and then click on install. And the first one is an extension pack for Python. And this basically includes all of the useful extensions that you need in order to work with Python. So you can see there are about 9 or so packages or extensions in here, and installing this Python extension pack will just get you all of those. So that's very convenient. Then next up we have, we have GitHub Copilot. So I highly recommend setting up GitHub Copilot if you don't have that already. It does require a paid subscription, but I find it so helpful and it really speeds up my productivity. Then we have Path Intelligence, which is also a very convenient way to get, I will show you let me show you what that does. So if you, for example, if you are in a Python file and you have this data folder over here, you can say, for example, file is, and then I can do a dash, and it will show you all of, or dash, a slash, I mean, and it can show you all of the folders that are in here. So I can see, and this way you can easily browse and navigate through all of your paths and folders that you have in here. So that is what Path Intelligence does. Then we have GitHub pull requests. If you work with pull requests, this is a very useful feature to do it straight from VS Code. Better Comments is a cool one. What you can do with that, depending on, for example, if you do to-do, exclamation mark, or a question mark, it will show different colors. This can be very helpful to better document your code. Then we have Rough, which is a very nice auto formatter, which I will get into in a bit more, but this essentially what we can do is upon hitting save, this will format our Python code and we can also use it to sort imports. It's really awesome. I will show you this in a bit, but this is also what I recommend. And then we have two styling teams. So first one is for icons and the other one is for the overall VS Code team. I use Atom 1 Dark and the Material icon team. So those are the ones that I like, but of course feel free to pick any team. I will show in a bit how you can set it up, but that covers all of the extensions that I have. So now let's look into how to activate these two teams. So for the overall team and for the icons. And you can do that very easily by coming over here to the, let me see, so to the settings. So lower left, you can go to settings and, or not, it's actually here, it's teams. And you can do color team. And here you can see I have Atom 1 Dark that I can select. And same for the, the file icon team. And I have the Material UI team. That's why you see all of those fancy logos for all those folders in here. But there is one additional thing that I added to my custom settings. So you can also change the settings in the JSON mode. And what I did is I've manually overwritten these folders. So Fenv, reference, and modeling. And this is just so that every folder in the setup that I use, except for all of those data folders, have a fancy folder icon. That's just the way I like to roll. So feel free again to also tweak that based on your liking. But what you can do is you can come to the material folder icons over here and you can have a look at this list. And then what you can do if you, for example, want to use Prisma or private, you can, let me come back. You can take, first of all, this code block over here of JSON, then come over here and open your user settings.json. And one good thing to know about VS Code is that you can store settings at the user level or at the workspace level. So this is the user level, meaning if I change something here and I open up a completely new VS Code project, those settings will still remain because it's at the user level. But you can also change things at the workspace level. So for example, if I come in here, I did not save this one yet. So I should save this workspace, come in here, and then I will store it over here. So this is the demo project. We can also add settings in here. So those will only be available to your workspace. But for most settings, you just want to keep it the same for every project. And you come in here and then let me scroll all the way to the bottom. You can see what I did here. So I have a bunch of files. I have a bunch of folder names that I've swapped out. So for example, modeling, that is this folder over here. I put the generator icon over there because by default, modeling within the material icon team doesn't have an icon. And I don't like that. So I just updated it like this by browsing through everything and just figured out the best icon for modeling. Maybe there's a better one. Feel free to customize this. All right, so that's how you update those settings. All right, then next, the auto formatting. Really cool. I will first show you how to activate it, and then I will give you a demonstration on how it can automatically format according to the PEP 8 style guidelines. And let's come back to VS Code. We're going to open the settings, and first we're going to search for format. I believe it's format on save. Yes, so you can see over here. So you can see it, format on save. So format a file on save, and then we can check this box first of all. And then what we can also do, we can set the default formatter. So let's also search for the default formatter. And you can see this setting over here. There's a whole list over here, but if you have the rough extension installed, you should be able to select rough over here. And now what this will do is this will apply these settings, I believe, to all of the files that you're working on. So if you, for example, sometimes work with Python, sometimes work with Java, what you can also do is add language specific settings. So for example, here you could also add this to your settings to specifically apply this formatter just to Python. So that's just another tip. So if at some point you have any kind of interference with this, make sure to have a look at this. But now once that's up and running, let's open a file over here and see rough in action. So I have a Python code snippet over here that is fairly poorly formatted. We basically have no idea what's going on over here. And what I can do right now with the simple click of 2 buttons, so Command S to save, bam, it will auto format that code and make it beautiful according to PEP 8 Python style guides. And this is so convenient when you're just writing your code. It ensures the consistency and the alignment, like I've said, with these style guides. And sometimes this, in the beginning, it can be a little weird to get used to. So for example, if we have some dummy data over here, we have a dictionary. It's a long dictionary and it extends or exceeds the max line length. And I can hit Command S to save and it will format that into this style right now. So sometimes you have with long lists, dictionaries, it might feel a little weird at first, but once you get used to it, it's so convenient, not only for your own consistency, but especially when you work with a team. So all of that code just gets auto-formatted and it's very easy to read and go through. And overall, it's just so satisfying to work with. One other cool tip with Rough is you can also use it to sort imports. So let's say we have a bunch of imports here. I can hit command, I can open the command palette and then do format imports. And there we go. It automatically formats that. That is just so satisfying. It also shows those yellow squiggly lines, meaning there are imports that are not referenced. So those are also just kind of like small helper indications to overall improve your code. All right, and with all of those settings out of the way, now let's get actually into the most important stuff, and that is running Python files or Jupyter Notebooks. So let me quickly show you how you can run Jupyter Notebooks, and it's really convenient and basically the same as you are already used to if you work with notebook files. So in my project template repository, there is a notebooks folder. So let's create a new file in here, call it notebook with the IPyNB extension. And I can come in here and let's paste in that same code snippet. And now let's run this. The only thing that you really have to set up is make sure that you select the right kernel. So if you're, for example, using a virtual environment, make sure that you, for example, pick that virtual environment that we already loaded or your Conda environment. And now you can see we have the Jupyter cell in here and we can run it. And you could just work with Jupyter Notebooks just like you're used to. So all the shortcuts work as well. So I can hit double D to delete a cell, hit B to insert one below, and everything works. You can also convert those cells to, for example, markdown cells. So everything just works, and working with notebook files is really easy. But there is actually, I believe, a much better way to work in a notebook style fashion for data and AI projects. And here we get to that technique that I mentioned in the beginning that has really doubled my productivity and that so many people like. And I recently also made another video about this, why I rarely use Jupyter Notebooks anymore. I always use Python files nowadays, and that is because I use the interactive Python mode within vscode to work with Python code, but in a similar way, in the interactive way that you are used to when working with Jupyter Notebook files. So let me show you how to quickly set it up. There's one more setting that we have to change. I believe that's the last one that we have to change. And we have to enable the following settings. So when pressing Shift plus Enter, send selection to Jupyter interactive window as opposed to the Python terminal. So let's copy this. So the Jupyter interactive window, come back to VS Code, come over here to the settings, and search for Jupyter interactive window. This is the one that you want to be selecting. So enable this setting. And let me first show you what happens if this is not selected. So if this is not selected and I come in here and I select all of the code in this demo file and then hit Shift Enter, what VS Code will do is it will send this to the Python terminal and will try to run everything here. So that is the default setting. So we already see that we get an error here. So let's first quickly tackle that. So you also learn how you can pip install additional packages into your virtual environment or Conda environment. And to do that, you can come over to the top bar and select terminal, hit a new terminal. You can come in here and then just run your pip install as usual. So you can also check out which pip are we using. and you can see that we're actually using the pip within this virtual environment. You can also see that it's activated over here. So just to make sure that you check all of that, and then we can hit a pip install pandas, just like you normally would, and it will put it into this folder here. So let's wait for that to finish, clear this up, get rid of the terminal, and now we should be able to run this and get the data frame in there. But what we are going to do right now is come back to the settings and then enable this again. And let's show you what is going to happen right now once I hit Shift Enter. Let me actually make this a little bit bigger. Come in here and fire this up. This, what you see on the right over here, is the interactive window, and this is simply amazing. This is what I use to do all my data and AI work. Why is that? Because it combines the flexibility of Jupyter Notebooks with the speed and efficiency of working in a regular Python file. Now, why is this so awesome? What you can do over here is, next to running everything at once, you can also come in here and work line by line or even variable by variable. So this interactive session, it doesn't just run and then shut down. No, it's similar to a Jupyter Notebook, and it keeps all of the data in memory. So because I just ran this code, the data variable is now still in the memory over here. I can even see that, pull that up, and what I can do then is come in here and run just the data variable to have a look at what's actually in there. And I can also come in here and, for example, look at what the data frame is. But I can even just go as far and go into this individual list and have a look at that. And in working like this, you can very easily test and reiterate on the code that you are writing. So for example, now if you want to have, for example, the data frame and you want to see the head of the data frame, but let's take the first two. I can come in here and I can just run this. Whereas if you were to do this with a regular Python file, you would really have to wrap this up in a print statement and then have a look at it. And the thing, this is also something that you can do in Jupyter Notebooks, but the annoying thing then is that you always have to switch back and forth and manage all of these cells. So if you want to do a quick check of the head, you would have to like escape out of it at the current cell that you're working on. So for example, here you have the data frame. Then I just want to see the head. Okay, create a new cell, hit double B to create that new cell, then come in here. Okay, that's all right. Okay, now I have to delete that cell again. So hit escape and then hit double D. And what you can do over here is it just becomes very easy to, for example, come in here. Let's do a replace. Let's see what that looks like. I'm just following some suggestions here from GitHub Copilot. So you can do, we see Alice, we rename it to Alice Smith. We can see, okay, that seems fine. And we can override the data frame. And now we can check and make sure we have updated the data frame. And this, like I've said, this will literally 2x your productivity when you're working with Python. And one good reminder over here, if at some point you do just want to run the Python code in the terminal, you can come in over here and just say run Python file. So for some projects, it might be necessary to just, for example, if you're running an app or web application or something asynchronous, Jupyter is not the ideal way to work. And just know that in the top right corner, you can always run it in the terminal, but this is the default that I like to use. So Shift Enter will fire up the interactive window and then just select what you want to run. Either have your cursor on one line, which will run that particular line, have an entire code block, or just a selection. And all of that will just work. It's very fast, it's very convenient. All right, and that brings us to the last part of this tutorial. One quick additional tip related to the interactive sessions again. If for whatever reason you don't want to run the project from your root, you can update that in the project specific settings. So for example, you can set the root file to fire up these interactive sessions. And you can, for example, take the workspace folder, but then put it into an app folder. So if you have an app folder in here, and that is where you want to run your code from, that is how you would update it. And I would recommend to always do that at the workspace level and not in the settings level, because it's probably related to this project only. And then finally, let's talk about the GitHub integration. So me having a data science background and not a pure like software engineering background, I love this integration because I always forget all of the GitHub commands. And what this allows you to do is to come in here and just use the UI to figure out what you want to do. So since we started this repository by like cloning it and then creating a new one based on a template, this is already GitHub repository, but you can also easily initialize a new repository. So for example, if you open up a folder on your file, it's no repository, you can easily initialize it and then publish it either as a private or a public repo. And then from here, you can just, if you have GitHub Copilot, for example, in here, I love this, automatically generate a commit file. And then let's say I come here, I hit commit and push, but I can also just check everything out. So I can, for example, create a branch and it will do that and I don't have to remember all of that. Or I can delete a branch, rename a branch. I can pull all of the changes. And usually I like to work with commands and remembering them. But with GitHub, at least for me, this is how I like to roll, because I always find myself like figuring out the exact syntax again, like especially when it comes to like those commands that you not always use, right? So, okay, like the commit, the push, the pull, all of that. I can do that, trust me, but just like the more complicated things, I always have to look up like what was that particular flag or syntax that I have to use. And this is just really convenient. Another great addition to VS Code and why I like it so much. So that covers everything. And by now you should have a fully set up and optimized VS Code workspace to work with your data and AI projects. All right, and that's it for this one. And now, by the way, if you're a developer and you want to get started with freelancing, maybe capitalize on the current AI hype that is going on, but you don't really know where to start or struggle to find clients, then you might want to check out the first link in the description. It's a video of me going over how my company can help you with that. And now in all transparency, it's a funnel designed to get leads for my company. So just so you know that, you don't have to click it, but if you consider freelancing, you might want to check it out. And now then, if you found this video helpful, please leave a like and also consider subscribing. And if you want to see how I tackle an entire machine learning project end to end using this exact setup that we just covered, then make sure to check out this video next. It's the first video in an entire playlist of 7 videos. I think it's like around 4 to 5 hours in total, covering, like I said, an entire machine learning project using this exact setup.